Everyone, welcome back. Today we're looking at NIO. Chinese Tencent holding reduced NIO stake as it sells 28.4 million shares. The Chinese conglomerate Tencent Holdings submitted a form to the Security and Exchange Commission on Thursday, revealing the sale of 28.454077 shares of NIO. As a result, Tencent now holds 95.6 million shares in the company. This marks a 22.93% decrease from their previous filing in June 2023. Now, this is very interesting. They haven't sold their entire position, but they've definitely sold a huge amount of shares. 28.4 million shares to be exactly. Now, following the sale, Tencent holds a 4.9% stake in the EV manufacturer. Over the past 4 years, the firm has gradually reduced its stake in NIO from 16.3% to 4.9%, selling approximately 64 million shares. NIO shares closed at $5.26 per share on Thursday. This is 46% higher than its recent low of $3.61 and 92% lower than its all-time high in January 2021. Now, we also have a statement by Image Frame and Huang River, and I quote, "Tencent is the parent company of Image Frame and Huang River and may be deemed to be beneficially owned the security held of the records by Image Frame and Huang River. Tencent beneficial ownership also includes 146.578 Class A ordinary shares, represented by 146.578 ADS held by record by a wholly owned subsidiary of Tencent. So is Tencent beneficial ownership of 4.9% of the total issued and outstanding Class A original shares, the firm stated in the filing. Out of curiosity, this is said filing if you wanted to take a closer look. Name of reporting person, Tencent, and the list goes on. So what does this all mean? That's the real question. Why would Tencent sell, and why have they continued to sell so much of their ownership in the NIO brand? Now, if I'm being completely honest, to the average person, this might make no sense. While the shares of NIO is not doing particularly well, the company, on the other hand, is doing extremely well in my opinion. Now, I must say, Tencent is one of those companies who have one of the most impressive leaderships that you could ever find. Starting with the CEO, that is Mei Hu-teng, and I do apologize if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. But this company, under his leadership, they've been able to do some incredible things. And I think one of the most impressive things about Tencent and the entire ownership structure is the significant willpower and strength and, just absolute dominance that they have in the tech space, including in the technology programmer space. They have thousands of developers at their disposal. And through this, they've really built a brilliant company, a brilliant brand. Said brand wanted to invest in NIO. So for a lot of people to see this brand reducing its spending into NIO is an eye-opener, to say the least. Tencent is known for one of the most incredible apps in the world right now, and this is purely operating in China. It's the WeChat app. And if you haven't heard about this application, well, it might be a long story, but in short, this application launched in 2017. It allows Chinese citizens to do virtually anything throughout this app. Anything that you can think of, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, just imagine Google, Facebook, all in the same application, but with more. PayPal, just think about any tech company you can ever imagine. And the technology that they offer, the services that they offer, you can get it in one app, and that's WeChat. But I don't want to dive into too much information. For one, the company is doing incredibly well in terms of their online advertising. Right now, the profits are soaring. As you can see, the Financial Times has been reporting on that. Chinese internet group Tencent quarterly profits have soared more than 60% as the country's most valuable listed company focus on a higher margin business including advertising and e-commerce. Key word there is that they're focusing more on higher margin businesses including advertising and e-commerce. Outside of China, who's the king of advertising? Google. And what services do Tencent offer again? Oh, right, WeChat that does everything, but way more than Google can ever imagine to offer. Tencent's net income rose 62% year on year in the first 3 months of 2024, beating analyst estimates and driven largely by a more profitable advertising business. Now, something that we want to take a look at is to understand Hong Kong's currency. For one Hong Kong dollar, that's an equivalent to around 10 pence in the UK. Reason I'm telling you this is because my data that I've gathered, it is in Hong Kong dollars. Share price right now is $395. Now in pounds, that's 39 pounds, 85 cents. Or pence, actually. It should be pence. But let's go to my more inclusive data in the US dollars. US dollars, that's 47 US dollars in stock price. Why is all of this important? Because we want to understand how well this business does on a quarterly basis. As you can see, earning over hundreds of billions of dollars on a quarterly basis. But is this US dollar or is this Hong Kong dollar? The earnings before interest tax is doing incredibly well. You cannot deny it. The free cash flow is doing incredibly well. What most investors would give an arm and leg for. The dividends has been rising steadily, steadily, steadily. In fact, since Q2 of 2021, dividends have doubled or almost doubled. Well, it actually has doubled, more than doubled, in fact. That is very impressive. That's less than 5 years away. That's less than 5 years ago or less than 4 years ago. That's very impressive. One of the criticism, however, is that this company has major debt. However, I wouldn't be so worried about those hundreds of billion dollars that they have in debt, as most companies who are supported by their economy are usually in heavy debt. You want a good example? Look at German companies like the automotive industry, an industry that Germany heavily relies on. Germany is willing to give these automaker companies as much money as they're willing to accept, because these companies are very important to the German economy, that these companies continue to produce cars and offer employment. And this is how the world works. This is the same thing with China. They support companies like Tencent to do very well because Tencent is very important to the Chinese economy and towards their educational system. People thrive for jobs in this economy, in this company, which means that they thrive in schools because they want jobs in these economy. You allow these companies to fail, people don't have anything to thrive for. People got to think more creatively, which means that they stop thinking about being a worker bee. And these companies and countries want people who are worker bees. And that's just my blunt honesty. If we look at December 2023, if we look at the quarterly earnings for Tencent ending December 2023, 155 billion. But I believe this is listed on Google, which is in Hong Kong dollars. If we go to Qualtrim, you'll see that it's 154 billion, basically the same. So this is in Hong Kong dollars, by the way. Just keep that in mind. So I gathered some data on Q4 2023 in US dollars. In terms of total revenue, it's 21.9 billion, up 7% over the fourth quarter of 2022. So year over year on a quarterly basis. In that particular quarter, up 7%. Gross profit were 11 billion US dollars, up 25% year over year. So you can see this is a company that's doing very well. And if anything, they're growing at a crazy and insane acceleration pace, despite what a lot of media outlets might have you thinking that the Chinese economy is slowing down. If that's so, why isn't companies like Tencent slowing down? A company that has an app that is the most important app in the entire country of China, over 1 billion people, and their company is speeding up at a scary pace. This is not an app that's going global. CEO 8 billion wealth gain has room to grow. Can you believe that? The CEO of Tencent has boost his wealth. So in many aspects, you can basically say that Tencent is essentially a complement to NIO. To have such a company investing in NIO is actually a huge compliment. When a company like this sells out of NIO, it is actually not a very huge compliment. But again, Tencent is changing their business model dramatically to increase their revenues and earnings. They're not changing the structure or necessarily the products necessarily. They're changing their approach, I would say. And it's been very, very successful, as you can see. And most would say Tencent is recognized as the world's top venture capital and investment entity and is currently hold a significant stake in tech firms such as Mertiana, Mertuan, JD, Didi, Snap, PDD, Kusho, Epic Games, and others. They own a large percentage in Epic Game, or significant percentage, one could say. Meanwhile, CYVN Investment, an Abu Dhabi-based investment vehicle, currently holds nearly 419 million shares in NIO, representing slightly more than 20% ownership according to NIO disclosure. In July 2023, NIO announced a strategic equity investment of $738.5 million from CYVN. Additionally, CYVN acquires certain Class A original shares of the company from an affiliate of Tencent Holding Ltd. This is for an aggregate consolidation of $350 million. And I have spoken about this deal before. I've spoken about it last year, of course, when it was announced. So in December, NIO disclosed a new round of $2.2 billion investment from CYVN, emphasizing continued collaboration to pursue strategic and technological partnership in international markets. Tencent Holding reached its highest ownership in July 2020 at 16.30% after acquiring approximately 16 million shares. Subsequently, in early 2021, the firm reduced its stake by selling 11 million shares as the stock reached new all-time high, exceeding $66 per share. This is quite astonishing. You got to understand, for Tencent to be selling this much of NIO, it's a huge deal. Most of us probably remember when Mercedes used to own 10% of Tesla and how they sold it for pennies. And at the height, that 10% would have been worth easily over 100 billion, if not like close to 140 or 50 billion dollars. That was a huge miscalculation by Mercedes. Will it be something similar for Tencent? It's really hard to know because Tencent and Mercedes are run very differently, vastly differently, in fact. Mercedes could benefit from strategic agreements between Tesla and Mercedes. While for Tencent, the businesses are very different. NIO could gain a lot more from Tencent rather than the other way around. Tencent is not heavily in EVs. They're not in automotive, if I believe. So their partnership wouldn't benefit Tencent very much except for financial. And these days, companies want more than just financial benefits. They want strategical benefits, strategical partnerships that might benefit both firms integrationally. That's not something that's easily achieved very often. So how do you think this will affect NIO? I mean, NIO stock has been declining for a long time now, and it's been incredibly cheap, thankfully. But the continued sell-off in stock by Tencent, it is definitely not the most motivating thing. Will they sell their entire ownership, or will they hold on to the 4.9% that they still have retaining? And the question begs, why would they sell now? Why now? What's so critical? Why would they need that money right now? Why wouldn't they just leave it there? Why do they need that capital right now? You got to understand, Tencent is still a business that's run by investors with their own personal opinion, who want their money and their ownership of that company to be allocated very specifically. So decisions like this are never as simple as they seem on the surface. There could be many more things going on within the company that we're simply not made aware of, obviously. So this decision could be based on absolutely anything, but it's definitely based on something integral. Because while NIO is selling off shares, they're also changing the way they conduct business to improve profit growth. And they've been doing that very successfully. It's working. So that's where I'll end the video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to see more. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you in our next video. Peace.